What if the person who murdered your loved one never even knew their name? What if they walked into your home at random, killed without motive, and then disappeared for nearly 30 years? Tonight, we're looking at one of the most unsettling cold cases ever solved, the murder of Robin Warr Lawrence. A bright, loving mother killed in the one place she should have been safest, her own home. Her 2-year-old daughter was in the next room. The killer walked out, and for nearly 3 decades, nothing made sense. Police had a crime scene. They had DNA. But they had no match, no suspect, and no motive. Until a quiet man from New York, Stephan Smerk, unexpectedly walked into a police station, and the entire case unraveled. This is the story of science, persistence, heartbreak, and the confession that shocked even seasoned detectives. On November 20th, 1994, police in Springfield, Virginia were called to a home on Old Craft Drive. Inside, they made a devastating discovery: 41-year-old Robin Warr Lawrence stabbed to death. Her toddler daughter was still inside the home, alive, but alone for hours. Investigators described the scene as haunting. No forced entry, no ransacking, no defensive wounds outside the bedroom, no witnesses. It was almost as if the killer had appeared from nowhere and vanished into the night. But one piece of evidence stood out immediately: a washcloth with blood that did not belong to Robin. Detectives believed the attacker had cut himself during the assault. That blood, that DNA, should have been the key. But in 1994, DNA databases were tiny. CODIS Combined DNA Index System was young. And the profile didn't match anyone. The trail froze instantly. To understand the weight of what happened, investigators had to look closely at Robin's life. Robin was a gifted artist, someone whose creativity shaped her identity. She was known as gentle, warm, and compassionate. A devoted mother who adored her daughter. At the time of her murder, Robin was married to Ollie Lawrence. They shared a home, a life, and a young child together. Not because they assumed guilt, but because statistically, it is the most common place for answers to surface. And in almost every homicide case, investigators must begin with the people closest to the victim. Police needed to confirm. Was this a targeted killing? Was there marital conflict? Or was something else happening inside that home? When detectives examined the crime scene, Ollie Lawrence, Robin's husband, became an immediate focus. This is standard procedure in any homicide, but 3 factors made the scrutiny especially important. Statistical probability. Most victims are killed by someone they know. Investigators had to rule this out. Opportunity. Where was Ollie when Robin was killed? Behavioral review. Was there any sign of marital tension, arguments, or a possible motive? The police worked quickly. Ollie reported that he was on a business trip in the Bahamas during the time of the murder. They verified his flights, hotel records, and work itinerary. Everything lined up. Detectives then examined the relationship itself. There were no reports of violence, no documented arguments, no threats, no financial motive, nothing that suggested a domestic situation had spiraled. And most importantly, the foreign DNA at the scene, the blood that didn't belong to Robin, did not match Ollie. With no physical evidence linking him to the crime and a confirmed alibi, investigators cleared him. Police have since confirmed publicly that Ollie cooperated fully. He answered questions. He provided information. There has never been any evidence connecting him to the murder. But clearing him didn't bring detectives any closer to the killer. In fact, it left them with no suspect at all. For nearly 30 years, detectives fought a losing battle. They retested the evidence as DNA technology advanced. They re-interviewed neighbors and family members. They searched for new tips, new angles, new suspects. Every path hit the same wall. The DNA belonged to someone who had never been arrested, lived a quiet, unnoticed life, and left no trace in law enforcement databases. The case became colder with each passing year. One detective later admitted, "We had the killer's DNA, but no killer." Robin's daughter grew up without her mother. Her family lived with decades of uncertainty, and investigators carried the weight of a case they couldn't close. Then came the technique that would change everything: genetic genealogy. Investigators turned to a volunteer genealogist, publicly known only as Liz. Liz analyzed the killer's DNA not by looking for a match, but by studying tiny fragments of genetic similarity to distant relatives in public genealogy databases. These weren't siblings, not parents, not cousins. These were fifth, sixth, even seventh cousins, barely connected, but enough to form a pattern. Liz built a complex, branching family tree, and after years of work, it began pointing to one man: Stephan Smerk, living quietly in Niskayuna, New York. No criminal record. No violent background. No reason to ever appear on police radar. But he fit the tree perfectly. Detectives traveled north to confront him. When investigators approached Smerk in 2023, something remarkable happened. He willingly provided a DNA sample. No hesitation. No argument. No lawyer. Just don't. I'll give you my DNA. The swab was analyzed, compared to the DNA from the 1994 washcloth. And after nearly 29 years, the match came back perfect. The killer had finally been identified. But detectives still needed to hear it from him. When confronted with the DNA results, Smerk didn't deny anything. He confessed. But his explanation horrified investigators. He didn't know Robin. He had never met her. There was no personal motive, no revenge, no connection. He claimed he left his home that night intending to kill someone, anyone. He said he walked into Robin's home simply because the door was unlocked. There was no planning. No purpose. Just a chilling act of random violence. Even detectives who had seen the worst imaginable crimes struggled with the senselessness of it. This wasn't a domestic murder. This wasn't targeted. This wasn't foreseeable. It was a tragedy without logic and without warning. Following his confession, Smerk was extradited to Virginia and pleaded guilty. A judge sentenced him to 70 years in prison. Given his age, he will almost certainly die behind bars. Robin's daughter, the little girl who survived that night, now grown, finally received the answers she had waited nearly a lifetime for. Investigators credited three things: advances in DNA technology, the tireless genealogical work of Liz, and Smerk's decision to voluntarily give his DNA. Without those three elements, the case might never have been solved. First, some of the darkest crimes are committed without motive and without warning. Robin Warr Lawrence's story reminds us of two haunting truths. Second, no matter how cold a case becomes, DNA never forgets. After nearly 30 years of silence, justice finally arrived. Thank you for watching Silent Evidence, True Crime Exposed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us next time for another chilling true story.
They listen but never reply. An open window, a breeze that chills. The weight of questions, the silence fills. Is it the truth that hides, or the lies that collide? Shadows in the frame.